Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Kyra and I'm currently living in Wellington, New Zealand, and on this channel I like to upload my journey living abroad as well as the many travel adventures that I get up to. But today is just a regular update video. I'm currently all dolled up because I did have plans but they were just cancelled and I'd already done my makeup, so I thought instead of waste this full beat of makeup, I'm going to just give you an update on something actually really stressful that's happened this past week, and I haven't been strong enough or in a good place to share it until right now, which it's been 1 week since the incident. So the week that's been very stressful has spanned from Monday the 8th of October all the way up to today. Today is the 15th of October, Sunday fun day if you will, and I'm finally feeling like myself again. I finally feel comfortable in my flat again. So without further ado, this is the story of how I got a flea infestation in my studio apartment here in Wellington. Yes, you heard correctly. A bloody flea infestation without owning any animals or anything here in my flat. It's just mind-blowing to me. I thought that you could only get fleas if you had an animal, and even then, I've lived in homes with animals. I had a cat for 12 years. I lived in my father's house for a while. They had a dog and 3 cats. They never had an issue with fleas. Most of our animals are indoor cats and dogs, I suppose, but the cats that we had would go out and they'd come back in, and we never had fleas in Canada. But here, I don't even own an animal and I had a flea infestation. So I guess I just want to start from the beginning. I just need to get it out in the open, and then if you're still interested to know the story of how this happened, then just keep watching. So really the story actually starts about 2 weeks ago, because 2 weeks ago I woke up with some mysterious red bites on my left leg, only on the calf and by the ankle and the foot, and these bites just showed up and I just didn't know what it was. I was trying to think, is this an allergic reaction? I've never had bites like this before. Of course I did think that maybe it was insect bites because they definitely looked similar to a sandfly bite, which we definitely have them here in New Zealand. But I was thinking back recently, 2 weeks ago, did I go on any walks or did I run through like a little horde of sandflies by mistake and they just bit up my one leg? It was just very mysterious that it was only the one leg and that I wasn't experiencing bites anywhere else except right here. I had 2. So I was like, I don't know, something may be biting me, but I don't know what it is. So that's where we started off. I let it go, but then I would start to wake up with more bites, and it got to the point where my calf was covered in bites. I'll put a picture up now of what it looked like about 2 weeks ago or so, where I started to have thoughts of maybe something's not right. This doesn't look normal. I don't think it's an allergic reaction. The bites were very itchy and they were sort of in a sporadic pattern. It didn't look like it was just a regular rash. I have eczema. I know what rashes feel like, and this did not feel like contact dermatitis or eczema or any other rash that I've had in the past. This felt like a bite. So anyway, I'm trying to find an explanation for these mystery bites, but then I vacuumed one day, as you do, and after I vacuumed, I noticed an increase in the amount of bites I was getting. Vacuuming is something that will disturb the eggs and will encourage the fleas to hatch, but I didn't know that I had a flea infestation. I was just living my life, sleeping in my bed, living in my flat in ignorance. Like blissful ignorance, okay? So that day after I vacuumed, I woke up and my right leg now was covered in bites, and I was like, something is wrong. I don't know what it is, but this is not an allergic reaction. I go to bed, I wake up, I have more bites. So of course I'm starting to think, is this bed bugs? Because that's the first thing that comes to mind when you go to your bed and you wake up and you have bites. Bed bugs, right? Bed bugs. So that's what I was thinking. Did my friend who's been coming over, who had been staying in a lot of hotels and hostels, did he pick up a bed bug and bring it into my flat? I really didn't want to believe that because I just didn't want to have to deal with it. I didn't want to manifest it into a reality. But in the end, it was not bed bugs, because this Monday, on the fateful day of the 8th of October, I woke up and I was feeling discomfort on my arms now. They were starting to get bitten, in addition to my legs and feet. I lifted my pillow to go make my bed, and that's when I saw the insect, actually saw it with my own eyes. And it was this reddish brown engorged insect with sort of like a thin, narrow body, and it was trapped under my pillow. So I was sleeping like this, and when I was sleeping, it was caught under my arm, and it was actually biting my arm while I was just about to get up for the day, and I saw blood stains on the sheets under my pillow, which is actually a sign of a bed bug. So I didn't know what it was at this stage, but I saw it and it kind of hopped a bit. I managed to think really fast. I was horrified, but I was like, oh my God, I finally found this thing that has been biting me, because it was driving me insane. It was driving me crazy. I didn't know what was going on, but here we go. I grabbed a tissue really fast, just thinking like, I need to capture this thing. I don't want to kill it because I want someone to, like a professional, to confirm what is this. So I managed to get this thing. I don't know how, because I feel like fleas are pretty fast, but I got it. It was so enlarged, it was way bigger than its normal body size, so it had been feeding on me all night. I remember waking up that day on Monday, looking at my body and thinking, holy crap, there's a lot of bites there. This guy was feasting on me. Well, it's a female, the ones that bite. This lady was having a feast and I was the meal. Gross. So I grabbed this thing, I put it into a Ziploc bag, and I leave it in the tissue because I don't want to kill it. And then I put it into a container because I was like, I don't want this thing to get out. You know what I mean? I finally caught the culprit. I need somebody to identify this. I don't want it hopping away, but I do have a video of when I had it on my counter and it was hopping. And that was the video basically that helped a professional exterminator identify that yes, this is a flea. And I was so shocked. I'm like, of all the things, of all the pests, of all the parasitic insects to make it into my flat, a fucking flea? Sorry, excuse my language, but really? In my bed? How? I don't have an animal. I don't have pets. How did this happen? In a way, in a very sick way, I was relieved because bed bugs are much, much harder to eliminate and exterminate from a house. And I had had this bug biting me for like 2 weeks now, which is more than enough time for a full infestation to take place. More than enough time for this insect to be laying hundreds of eggs, thousands of eggs by the time that I caught it. So if it was a bed bug, it would have been really hard to remove. So in a way, the fact that it was a flea was a little bit better, but not really, because fleas, I did a lot of digging on fleas. I learned a lot about that little sucker. They breed very, very quickly. They can lay so many eggs a day, and one flea problem can turn into an infestation like that. So it was very scary for me to deal with that. I broke down. My stress went from 0 to 100. I had cortisol, adrenaline, and I was sobbing because I just didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to handle it. I kept thinking, how did this happen? What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? That was like the $1 million question that morning. What am I gonna do? I've just woken up to start my work week and I found a freaking flea in my bed, biting me, full of my blood. I'm full of insect bites, and now I have to compose myself and go to work and go to meetings and try to clean up my house and try to figure out how I need to sanitize my home so that I can eliminate this problem. And it was really tough. And I have to give a shout out to my current colleagues because I did share with them what happened because they noticed that I was not myself, very shook. I have been working closely with these two colleagues for many, many months now. Well, I say months now, but it feels like that actually. But I think it's been about 6 weeks that we've been working very closely together almost every day, calling each other on Teams. We were pretty close, so I felt comfortable to share with them what happened. And I'm really glad that I did because it was my colleague who shared the video I took of the flea to a professional that her partner knew. And we got that confirmed from a professional exterminator that yes, it is a flea. So I had peace of mind knowing exactly what it was that was in my house and what I needed to do to treat it. And then the other colleague on the call told me how I can treat it because she's had experience using flea treatments in her previous homes. So I was like, ladies, you guys are so helpful. And that's what I needed in that moment. I just needed support and I needed people to guide me to know what I needed to do because I was really out of my element. I was so out of my element. So I knew that I had to go get a flea bomb. I had no idea this was a thing. You have to go buy a flea bomb. It's an aerosol can that you press down on the sprayer. It locks and then it just sprays out this smoke into the air and it's incredible. It's like it fills the whole space. You have to close all the windows and doors. You have to leave your house for about 3 hours to let this smoke settle, and it just supposedly kills fleas on contact and actually any creepy crawly, cockroaches or any other kind of insect you're dealing with in your house. I deployed the bomb. It had like filled my room. It was looking really smoky, and I was like, whoa, like I'm breathing this in, I can't get it to lock. And of course, keep in mind that my stress has been skyrocketed. I had so much adrenaline, my hands were shaking. I remember trying to get ready for work before I deployed the flea bomb, and I was like shaking so hard I couldn't put my earring in. I dropped it and it broke on the floor because I was just so full of stress. And even talking about it right now is making my back kind of seize because that's what happened. I was so stressed that I manifested physical pain in my back. It was just an instant stress, and I wore it not only in my face but in my body, in my brain, my emotions. It was a horrible day, and I get emotional thinking about it because it was so stressful, and it had been a really long time since I had been that stressed. See, I actually thought that I'd be able to talk about it without crying, but it was really, really hard. It was super hard, and the hardest part is I didn't have anybody to help me here. I had to do it all by myself. I had to handle it by myself. So I think that was probably one of the most stressful parts of it, is that I had to do it alone, and I had to still go to work and figure it all out and then deal with the aftermath by myself. So that was really, really upsetting. So after this flea bomb deployed, I had to get out of the house. So I let my landlords know that I was deploying this flea bomb. They had to tell the neighbors next door, which was also very embarrassing to have to tell people in your life that you have fleas, because fleas can be associated with an unclean home. So my landlords knew. They said that the Body Corp doesn't even let animals live in this apartment, so it still didn't make sense. So maybe you're wondering, Kyra, how the heck did you get fleas when you don't have any animals and there's no animals in your apartment? Well, it came from this friend that I've been hanging out with recently. He has been starting to house sit with a cat who roams around outside. After I informed him, hey, I think it's likely that your cat that you're house sitting has given me fleas, he messaged and said, yeah, I think the same thing, because this cat has been outside a lot, and the owner of this cat told me that she recently did a treatment for fleas. So this woman had found fleas in the house and apparently did a treatment for it, but didn't think to tell the person coming to house sit that there may be a risk that there's still fleas around. I don't understand that. I think that's kind of irresponsible of a pet owner to just let somebody move into their place to look after their animal without telling them, oh, by the way, I've just had a flea problem, just so you know, here's some preventative measures to make sure that it doesn't spread. Anyway, I think he just tracked in a flea on his clothes. He came into my house and sat on this couch. He used a blanket that I use on my bed, and when he would leave, I would fold it back up and put it back on my bed, and I believe that is how the flea came into my house. There's no other explanation. It must have been a pretty bad infestation for a flea to transfer on clothing and for him to track it back into my house, because it's not like we live close to where he is right now, and where I'm living, it's a distance. So for this flea to just, unfortunately, this friend didn't offer much support. That friendship has since ended since this episode happened, just due to the lack of consideration to how much stress I was put under as a result of them bringing a flea in. I don't blame them for bringing the flea in, because that was, totally not their fault necessarily. It was just like a shock. They didn't know that the flea had come from them at first. Where I feel like the friendship fell short was just in the support that wasn't offered to try to help me get rid of this problem. I basically was left on my own. It wasn't nice. It wasn't a good feeling to just be abandoned by somebody who actually helped cause this, and then not get any support afterwards. So that was very disappointing for me, and I couldn't get over that, and that's why that friendship broke down, because I think the damage was just irreversible, if I'm being honest. So not only did I have a flea infestation, I kind of had an idea of how this happened, so I made it to the office. I'm still a wreck. I'm crying, I'm breaking down, I'm super stressed, and now I have to go into the office and try to be professional. And that's stressful. It was hard. It was hard to do that, but I did it. I finished off my work day at the office while the mist and smoke settled here in my apartment, and then I came home and I had to strip the bed bed, strip all the pillows, gather all the blankets that I have, and take them in to a laundromat that was not too far from my house. And I had to sit there and make sure that they were washed on really hot water and dried in the dryer. And it was difficult because I had to do that all on my own and wait for things to finish and then walk them all the way back. My mom had a really good idea to put the blankets and bedding in a suitcase and then push them. So I had some in a garbage bag that I had bought, and I put the rest of the stuff in the garbage bags and then used a suitcase to help push it down the street. Then started 7 hours of cleaning. All the research that I'd done, I knew that vacuuming was the best form of defense, and I had to vacuum. So basically my whole flat was torn apart. I had to lift the mattress, lift the bed frame, vacuum up underneath it, then vacuum a deep clean behind the couch, move the couch, vacuum behind, vacuumed on the couch, behind the couch, in the couch, and I have a cordless vacuum here, so the vacuum kept dying. And that just further added to the stress of it because I could only use the vacuum at short intervals, like maybe for 2 minutes of use every 15 minutes of charging. But if I let it fully charge in between, it would be a couple hours, which is, I just didn't have the time. I had to sleep there that night, so I needed to make sure I could vacuum everything in my living area. There was wet blankets and stuff all over my bathroom waiting to be thrown into the dryer. Before I knew it, it was a solid 7 hours of cleaning, and I went to bed that night at 2 in the morning. And it was just stressful because I had to do it all by myself. I was alone. I didn't have anybody I could call. The person who I thought was my friend was texting me but made no offer to come help me, which I thought was really muggy. You see how stressed I am, but you don't want to help. You're just nowhere to be found. That to me is not a friend. It was hard, but I did it. I don't know how I did it. I was like, I don't know how I'm doing this, but I have to do it because I have to sleep somewhere. And I felt like it was dirty in here. I didn't feel safe in this flat because you feel so violated being bit in your own bed. Like, that's my cozy, safe space. My bed, my cozy bed had parasitic insects in it sucking my blood. That's so violating on so many levels that I just couldn't feel good sleeping there. The sleep was restless. It was awful. I was exhausted. I stayed home that day. I was supposed to be in the office on Tuesday, but I was so tired from the cleaning till 2 in the morning. Luckily, I have a very flexible and understanding team. I worked from home that day. It was a lot. It was a lot to handle for one person. Kind of just made me feel sad that I don't have that community in Wellington, that I don't have somebody I can rely on. I don't have family here, you know, like I definitely would have called mom if this was something that was happening in Canada and I lived in the same city as her. I just didn't have that, and it definitely impacted how I feel about living so far away from a support group. Oh man, this is gonna get emotional, but I have really tried hard to find a community here. It was a hard week of realizations of, do I actually want to live somewhere where I don't have a community of support? Is this something that I can sustain? Living somewhere where I don't have anybody to help? I already knew that I didn't have a community or a tribe here, and living here because of that was quite hard. The whole flea situation, I think, felt worse than it may have if I would have had somebody to help, but because I didn't, I think it also stirred up a trauma response to feeling like I'm by myself and I don't have any support. I think the fact that I'm getting so emotional is important to capture because this is part of my journey living in New Zealand. I want to be real. You guys, living overseas is not all the time amazing experiences. There's definitely so many challenges, and vlogging actually, if you didn't know, helps me process my emotions. So talking to you guys is actually my form of therapy. So thank you for listening if you're still here, sticking out this really long story. But what I was trying to say earlier is getting fleas is hard, I agree, and it caused me a lot of stress. But why I think it hit me so hard is because it made me realize in a very big way that I am on my own out here. And I've tried really hard to have that not be the case. I've tried to meet so many people through online platforms and forums, any way that I can, trying to go out of my comfort zone and go to meetups and events to try to make connections. It just has not manifested here for me. And coming to that realization was really tough. So I think it was compounded onto the flea issue was these feelings of frustration and disappointment with not having a community to fall back on when times get tough. I think that's a very important aspect of finding a home somewhere, is finding that support and feeling like you have people you can trust and call on for help. I can be very independent, sometimes hyper independent, which I've recently discovered is a trauma reaction, and I have tendencies to lean towards hyper independency, which is actually not healthy. A nice form of independence is good, but sometimes when you're hyper independent, you're pushing people away and you're not reaching out for help when you indeed do need help. I think that that's why this week has been so hard. It just dredged up a lot of things that I knew were probably in the background of my subconscious, but they were thrust into the conscious state based off of this instigation of the flea infestation triggering it. So those were really, really hard things to process this week, and as you can tell, I'm still processing them. They still make me very emotional to talk about, and I feel very vulnerable. After working from home the second day and dealing with sanitizing all the pillow covers and stuff, I felt a little bit better, but not really. And my mom texted me, and she supported me as best she could from Canada. So she actually helped me book a hotel room, and that night I checked into a hotel and I was able to go to the Tory Hotel. Actually was able to check in and have a nice, clean, comfortable room to myself. I guess I was just really struggling with the fact that I felt very violated and not very clean in my space, especially in my bed. So even though I was sleeping, it wasn't very good quality sleep, and I just felt like I needed to get away from everything, and my mom thought the same thing, so she helped coordinate a beautiful stay in a hotel. So thank you, Masha. Shout out to you for doing that for me. She also sent me some money that I could get some dinner that night, so I didn't have to worry about cooking food at home. So I did go to stay at the hotel. It is a cute little hotel, except for the fact that I got super unlucky and the Wi-Fi wasn't working in my room, so I actually went the night without any Wi-Fi, which was really annoying. But I did other things like read my book, I wrote in my journal, and I also went to the gym that night. I did feel good being in the hotel. I felt like the stress was coming off of me and I felt better about it. Honestly, I was just trying to do anything to help bring that stress level down, but getting away for a night was really nice. And the next day I also worked from home, and I came back and I was working in my house and I finished up all the cleaning. So even though it felt like a mammoth task, I actually tackled it. So I have to say I'm very proud of myself. I do think I've come out of it stronger. I know that I can handle a flea infestation. God forbid I ever have to go through that again. I now know what needs to be done to sanitize your home. So that is the update for my life the past week. It has been an up and down journey. Alongside the unlucky things that happened to me, I did have some positive things happen in my work life. So I really do appreciate the ups and downs. I achieved some milestone accomplishments with my work last week. But in the meantime, what's coming up in my life? I'm getting ready to turn 32 years old at the end of November. And I actually have planned a trip to Sydney. So I don't know if I've announced it to the vlog, but if I haven't, here you go. I'm going to Sydney for my 32nd birthday, and I'm spending it with my two best mates. And I'm so excited to spend it with these two lovely humans. I'm so grateful that I met them over a year ago now. And I think I'm gonna have so much fun in one of my favorite cities in the whole world. I love Sydney. I have so much love for that city. I'm very grateful that I get to spend my birthday there this year. So that is what I'm looking forward to. The countdown now I think is like 40 days until I leave for Sydney. I have to get my Australian visa sorted. I gotta pack. Girl, I'm gonna do some shopping there. I'm so excited. So that is the up that I'm looking forward to. You know, slowly 1 week later, I'm starting to feel comfortable in my flat again. It feels cozy once more, which I really didn't think that that was gonna be the case. I didn't think it would ever feel cozy here anymore after what I went through. But I have not been bitten since I did the flea bomb, so that thing was pretty deadly. And I think, fingers crossed, I am flea free. I really want to stress that even though these bad things can happen in your life, I think that we become stronger because of the hard lessons. So yes, I am grateful for the hard lessons. Do I want to go through that again anytime soon? No, but am I grateful that I went through it so that I could come out the other side and prove to myself that I could get through this on my own, no less? Yes, I'm grateful for that. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next update. Bye!